The Western pro-life movement cares about protecting young mothers and their children from harm. But historically, that's also what the law is designed to do. Will those laws be restored? Yes, they will. And we will show you how. On this edition of Life Matters, with your host, Brian Johnston. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Well, welcome back to Life Matters. We're your unique program on the right to life, on what it really is, the actual meaning of that term, and how it applies to your life and to your society and to the lives of the vulnerable in your society. Today is an extraordinary day. We have breaking news from the United States Supreme Court. It will stun you. If you're listening to this for the first time at the end of October of 2021, you probably know that the Supreme Court has completely changed its approach to how it's going to hear the Roe v. Wade and other abortion issues. That's right. Earlier, the court had granted cert. That means they wanted to hear the Dobbs versus Jackson women's health issue, the Mississippi law, which bans abortion after the 15th week. That was scheduled to be heard on December 1st of this year, with the final decision to be handed down early next year. Everything has now changed, ladies and gentlemen. The Supreme Court, under incredible pressure from abortion advocates, are desperate to stop the new Texas law, which is in effect right now. They have refused to stop it being in effect. And the President of the United States, a 100% abortion advocate, has dedicated every aspect of the federal government to stop that law. They have petitioned, and now the court has granted that the Texas heartbeat law is now scheduled for hearing on November 1st. That's right. If you are hearing this at the end of October, that is Monday, November 1st, they also are asked to consider the legality of Roe versus Wade. The abortion industry is so alarmed at the change in the courts, at the aggressive nature of the pro-life movement in setting up successfully state laws to protect babies. They are putting it all on the line, and the U.S. Supreme Court has said, okay, we will look at this. This is a stunning turn of events. We're going to talk about what this means and the details of the Texas heartbeat law, how this is going to impact the debate. You are not going to get a balanced view from the popular media. Please understand, the media is not your friend. The media has always described Roe v. Wade and Doe versus Bolton about a woman's right to choose. That is not what the decisions were about. These decisions were about the propriety of doctors, the healing profession, killing. That's what was determined January 22nd of 73. They are free to kill human babies, and specifically under Roe and Doe, to do so based solely on the opinions of the MD. That's right. A woman can ask, but it is up to the doctor, the abortionist, as to whether or not he will let that child live. There need not be anything wrong physically with the mother or physically wrong with the child. It can be based on the, quote, health, as defined as psychological health, sociological health. Roe versus Wade authorized abortion on demand in the U.S. Many states and conscientious Americans have said this is wrong. We're seeing a result of the pro-life movement's incessant demand that these babies be protected, and it's coming to a head November 1st of 2021. We're going to get into this case briefly. I'll give you some of the implications. There's a lot of implications we want you to understand, because remember, this is a battle not about our personal emotions. And I got to tell you, I get emotionally bothered when innocent people are killed. That's at stake here. But the laws, the ideas that justify it, you must understand and you must defeat these evil ideas. So we talk about the battle of ideas. You must be able to explain to your friends and neighbors and family what the media doesn't explain. The media is going to lie about the results of this hearing. They're going to misrepresent what actually happens. You will have to be prepared. So we're going to talk right now about the Texas law. The Texas law, unlike the Mississippi law says that after 15 weeks of gestation, that child should be protected. Now, if you know anything about child development, and we've talked about that here before and other places, you can look into it. That child's pretty well along at 15 weeks. The Texas law is substantively different. In many ways, the Texas law is what really alarms the abortion industry, because the Texas law draws the line at when the child's heart can be heard to beat. When the heart starts beating is set approximately at 6 weeks after conception. This has alarmed the abortion industry. But there's even more, because not only does it deal with the child as a unique human being, even when that young, but this law gives not the Attorney General or a local prosecutor the responsibility to protect the child. This particular law allows a right of private civil action by individual citizens against an abortionist that has harmed that child. So let's say you're the husband and your wife has been convinced to go and kill your son or daughter. You would now have a right of civil action to sue that doctor for the harms against that child and against you as the father. This is an extraordinary change, and it's important that this be understood, because when someone has the right of civil action, they're going to want to take it. Now, in civil court, you can't call it a crime, because a crime has to do with what the prosecutors, what society is going to do to lock someone up or punish them for committing a crime. This basically is a violation of individuals' rights, and it gives standing to those who have been harmed. A good illustration might be, if you remember, the case of O.J. Simpson. The O.J. Simpson case was actually involving two different aspects of law. The first trial was the criminal trial to determine if he was guilty of a crime. He would have been locked up. The county prosecutors tried him on that, and he was found not guilty by the jury. However, in the civil trial over the same action, the family, the Brown family, the family of his wife, sued him in civil court for millions of dollars for the personal harm that they brought against Nicole Brown Simpson and against them as a family. They lost their sister and daughter. That didn't even last one day. He was immediately found guilty because civil trials require a different standard of evidence, and it allows people who have been harmed to have a voice. Our problem in the pro-life movement is that many times, even in states where we have good pro-life laws, the politics of a prosecutor, a county prosecutor, or a state attorney general, they have what's known as prosecutorial discretion. And if they don't want to protect that baby for political reasons, they can just ignore this crime. Even though there is a state law that says you can't kill that baby, it's up to the prosecutor to decide. So this prosecutorial discretion that is given in criminal law is completely dismissed now, because this states a very important principle that individual citizens who've been harmed by this, what should be a crime, they now can bring a cause of action and sue that abortionist. Most abortionists love their money, and they don't want to get personally sued. This will bring an incredible chilling impact on the abortion industry. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the nature of civil law and why civil law is so important to be emphasizing the right of other individuals to say, stop, this is wrong. We're also going to see that if that's used, this will bring a tremendous change in the nature of this debate. We'll be right back after this.
Life Matters continues after this.
Life Matters is sponsored by the California Pro-Life Council. Would you help us during our pledge drive? It's easy. You can just pledge by text. Using your cell phone, text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. That's 916-347-5644. This is a text-only line, not a voice line. Once you enter the word GIVE, you'll be able to follow the prompts to pledge, and you can also find out a lot about California Pro-Life. So please, don't do this while driving. Please send a text GIVE, that's GIVE, to 916-347-5644. We'll do the rest. Our opponents get vast sums from the government. We can only look to you and folks like you who take a stand for life. Thanks for your help. That's 916-347-5644. Text the word GIVE. Thanks, you're a lifesaver.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back. This is Life Matters, and we're talking about an important change in the way the Supreme Court is dealing with Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton. The Texas heartbeat law was basically allowed to continue in effect. The Fifth U.S. Circuit then finally, this is a federal circuit, they said that it could go back into effect after one of the federal judges in Austin ruled that the federal government could stop it. The whole circuit court overturned his ruling. So the Texas law is still in effect right now. That's been brought right up to the high court. They have been asked to please don't let it continue. The pro-abortion movement is desperate to stop this. President Biden, obliged to Planned Parenthood and the entire abortion industry, has pledged that the entire federal government would be used to stop this. Thankfully, he hasn't succeeded. So now Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is defending the law, and this will be heard on November 1st. By the way, California Pro-Life Council, as well as other pro-life organizations, has filed an amicus brief in this very important case. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has done an excellent job so far, and he has demanded that it stay in effect, and they stood with him. He also says that the court erred, quoting now, AG Paxton said the court erred in recognizing the right to abortion in Roe and in continuing to preserve the right to abortion in Casey. This is extraordinary because the Supreme Court to this moment is agreeing with him. The oral arguments again will be heard on November 1st. History is about to be changed. Regardless of what happens, we want you to understand that the issue of that child in the womb is finally coming to the surface. This is an important time. So we want you prepared for whatever happens. We want you to prepared to understand the nature of this debate. I'd like to spend a little time in examining why this civil ability to file a court case, this grievance against the abortionist, is so unique and so important. You need to understand that the criminal law is dependent on individuals in important positions enforcing that law. And we have seen in many states when that doesn't happen. The question is, should an individual have the right to sue an abortionist? And that comes down to an issue of standing. The pro-abortion media has said, oh, anybody can sue anyone that's in any way connected to an abortion. This will be crazy. People will be suing to get money if there's the most tenuous of connections. This is wrong. That's not quite a fair analysis, because in all civil cases, at that particular trial, the judge must determine if the litigant has standing to sue. That's right. So let me just give you an example. If my neighbor goes and steals something from another neighbor, they've now committed a tort. They've broken a law and violated my other neighbor's rights. But if I took my neighbor who did that, if I took them to court, I would be declared as not having standing. The trial court will determine the standing. And so it would be the violated neighbor, because something is wrong with stealing from another person's property. And my other neighbor who was the victim would indeed have standing. And so what the Texas law does, it allows individuals to sue in court, but it is at that level that the court will determine if there is standing. So the example I gave earlier is obviously a husband who has both a responsibility. If she doesn't kill that kid, he's going to have a responsibility for that child. And many husbands want to have their kids. However, it does extend beyond that. It could be a grandparent. If my minor daughter, which is probably the most common case for abortion, because parents in California are not told about minors' abortions, and the state of California will pay for the abortion. And now, in the state of California, my personal insurance company can be billed for the abortion on my minor daughter, and I cannot be informed of that. It's bizarre. So literally in that case, it's a fictional case, but it's not that uncommon, particularly in California, I ought to have standing because that abortionist just killed my grandchild, and I was not informed of it. In fact, again, according to the state laws in California, which Governor Newsom just signed, it authorizes your insurance company to be billed, but the insurance company cannot reveal why that payment was made. So it's never revealed to the insurance owner. It's completely backwards. But obviously, a grandparent would have standing if their minor daughter had their grandchild killed. The pro-abortion movement has said, oh, well, if somebody gets a ride with Uber and you see the license plate, well, you just track down that Uber driver and they can sue an Uber driver. It'll be mass confusion. People will be suing everybody and everything. The problem is this, is that the trial court is what determines standing. So the trial court in the case of the Brown-Simpson family found that the Browns had standing. Their daughter had been killed intentionally by O.J. Simpson. When my neighbor steals from another neighbor, I do not have standing. Even if I saw it, I could be a witness. But it is my other neighbor who had their items stolen who will be granted standing. I could not be granted standing. And so the abortion mentality in the major media is, oh, this is going to result in so many spurious lawsuits. Actually, there are already a lot of spurious lawsuits if you follow the law. That is a big problem with lawyers. But they're determined to be so. The trial judge determines this is a spurious argument you're bringing. You're just trying to cause trouble. So they're implying that that will happen everywhere. And yet, as I said, in the real law right now, the real world, spurious lawsuits are being brought. But it is the trial judge who determines if that individual, that plaintiff, has standing. So this is important because it allows abortionists to be held accountable. When we file criminal laws, when we pass criminal laws in various states, unless the prosecutor is willing to fight, they often will not try to sue the abortionists, even though there's documentation, because they're afraid of losing the case. They're afraid of the political consequences. And so even having criminal laws, we have found that that is not enough. Now, there's a deeper issue I want you to think about. When we come back, we're going to talk about why you have this right, if not responsibility, to speak up for others. We're going to talk about it in depth. I do want to remind you that we're in the midst of our pledge drive for California pro-life, and it's only for texting, so don't expect to talk to anybody. But text the word GIVE during this pledge drive. Text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. Just the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 916-347-5644. You're going to see and be linked to a complete explanation of what California Pro-Life Council does. We're the state affiliate of National Right to Life, and our full legal name, by the way, is California Pro-Life Council and Right to Life Federation. Because we're a team of individuals and organizations from across the state dedicated to restoring legal rights to the vulnerable. And again, the pledge number, text to pledge, 916 347 5644. When we come back, we're going to talk about where did this right to protect life come from. It's very important. It is in our founding documents. It's been with us since the founding of this nation. But many people don't understand these ideas. They're simple and straightforward, and we're going to talk about that when we come back.
Life Matters continues after this.
Life Matters is sponsored by the California Pro-Life Council. Would you help us during our pledge drive? It's easy. You can just pledge by text. Using your cell phone, text the word GIVE to 916-347-5644. That's 916-347-5644. This is a text-only line, not a voice line. Once you enter the word GIVE, you'll be able to follow the prompts to pledge, and you can also find out a lot about California Pro-Life. So please, don't do this while driving. Please send a text GIVE, that's GIVE, to 916-347-5644. We'll do the rest. Our opponents get vast sums from the government. We can only look to you and folks like you who take a stand for life. Thanks for your help. That's 916-347-5644. Text the word GIVE. Thanks, you're a lifesaver.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're talking about a very important court case that is now being heard by the United States Supreme Court, the Texas Heartbeat Bill. And specifically, the Texas bill is going to allow private civil action against abortionists. If someone has standing, they can sue an abortionist for killing that human being. This is a critically important element. Some people are questioning whether or not that's appropriate. But in fact, we already know this, that the state has a compelling state interest to protect life. That's right. This is a premise in the United States of America, that the purpose of government is to protect innocent lives. That's why the right to life is stated in our founding. This is a self-evident truth. The reason you have a government is so that those who aren't able to protect themselves can be protected. There's a compelling state interest. That's why we have policemen with badges and guns, to protect them from miscreants, from someone who might harm them, to take their life or liberty or property. We need the state to step in. It's one of the principal reasons the government exists. It's known as a compelling government interest or a compelling state interest to protect life. But I want to remind you where that came from. That actually emanates from a deeper principle in society. And that principle is our responsibility to speak up for others. Our responsibility to consider other individuals, as it says in Scripture, to love your neighbor as yourself. That if someone is vulnerable, we need to be involved. The deeper spiritual principle, as you know, is found in Scriptures that we are all made in the image of God, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. So there's a powerful blend of these existing, almost primordial principles. These are rights. The right to be alive is not given by the government. It's given by our Creator. But it's the duty of government to protect lives. So this is a compelling state interest. But the government itself is created by human beings. And the deeper principle is that human beings have an obligation to protect the innocent. Again, it says in Proverbs 24:11, hold back those who are being carried away to death. Don't say you don't know about it, because he who judges the heart knows that you know and will hold you accountable. There is a duty in any just society for stronger individuals to be cognizant of the weaker and to speak up for them. Philosophers have talked about this. This may sound complicated. It's not. Immanuel Kant, as he was a philosopher from the 1700s, and as he distilled down what it is that makes us obligated to life and society, he called it a moral imperative. In fact, the word he used was the categorical imperative. that there's a defining line of what makes a moral person and what makes a moral society. And that is to treat other individuals as wholly, and that's W-H-O-L-L-Y, as wholly valuable in and of themselves, and to never treat them as a means to an end. Well, yeah, I can dismiss this person because I want to get this done instead. So this particular life is disposable, or this particular person's value can be minimized because I want to accomplish something else. Injustice is the net result of that. When you treat people as a means to an end rather than an end in and of themselves, is what Immanuel Kant said. But he was reflecting the values of Western Civ. He was pointing out what really also the 10th Amendment points out, that it isn't just the federal government that's given authority and responsibility. In the 10th Amendment of our Constitution, it says that the federal government has limited responsibilities, and anything that is not explicitly given to the federal government is given to the several states and to the people, that individual people have responsibilities that they can pursue and must pursue in a just society. The 10th Amendment confirms that the power of government emanates from human lives, the governed. It is the value of human life that is the principle of our government. So we're saying this to remind you that individuals have a right and duty to speak up, just as you have been. You've been informing other people about the child in the womb. If you're pro-life, you've been speaking up, and you're going to get more opportunities to do so. And it's a moral responsibility in a just society for us to speak up for others. The Texas law now allows that to happen, and for those who wantonly kill human babies to be held accountable. This is a powerful premise. It will be misrepresented by the popular media. I promise you that. But the principles are there in the law. As I said, California Pro-Life has filed an amicus brief in this. By the way, as I said, we're in a pledge drive. You heard about it already. But if you'd like to text to pledge to California Pro-Life, it's very easy. Just text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E. Text GIVE to this number, 916-347-5644. That's 916-347-5644. Just send the word GIVE, and then you will be sent back a web page, and it explains who we are and what we do and why we want to protect life. It gives you a chance to help us in our work. So please support our pledge drive, and please don't forget to stand up for innocent human lives. Thanks for listening.
Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.